45 minutes left. God is trying to reach you again and you keep scrolling past this. Don't turn away this time. Something sudden is coming. My beloved, before anything else settles over your day, let this be the moment you finally pause. You've seen messages like this drift across your screen before, yet something in you knows this one carries a different weight, a quieter pull, a gentler urgency. When you saw the phrase, 45 minutes left, it didn't strike you as a countdown to fear but as a symbolic invitation to clarity, a window opening in the noise. You're here now because your spirit recognized a familiar voice, the one that calls you when your heart is tired of confusion and ready to breathe again. Dear one, this moment is not accidental. You paused here because something within you is weary of carrying fog, carrying delays, carrying questions that haven't found a home. You've walked long enough with the weight of uncertainty tugging at your steps, and a part of you is ready to step from confusion into clarity. That shift doesn't happen through pressure, it happens through presence. So hear this with gentleness. God is not reaching for you to warn you but to steady you. This is not a rebuke. It's a reminder that you deserve a moment where everything in you can exhale. You've skipped messages before because they felt loud, demanding, or disconnected from your actual life. But this one feels like it followed you. It found you in the middle of an ordinary moment and whispered, "Stay here, listen differently." This isn't about urgency that frightens, it's about urgency that frees. It's the kind of invitation that comes when heaven sees that you've been standing in a hallway of unanswered prayers and silently hopes you'll allow one sliver of light to reach you. Not to rush you. Not to corner you. Simply to let you notice that clarity has already begun. Because clarity doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it arrives with a gentle tug, the kind that says, "Something is shifting in your favor, just breathe." You've been living between what you hope for and what you fear, between wanting direction and being afraid of disappointment. This message opens a door where faith can replace fear, where presence can replace isolation, where divine tenderness can wrap itself around the parts of you that feel stretched thin. And as you breathe into this moment, you may notice that the confusion you've been battling is loosening its grip, even subtly, even quietly. So let me speak gently into that softening place. God is not knocking to pressure you, God is knocking to accompany you. There is a difference. One demands something from you, the other offers something to you. And in this moment, beloved, you are being offered reassurance that you have not missed anything meant for you. Heaven hasn't been waiting for perfection. Heaven has been waiting for permission, the permission that comes when you allow yourself to pause long enough to feel loved again, guided again, held again. Even if you don't know what comes next, you're not alone. Something unexpected may unfold soon, not as a dramatic interruption but as a gentle alignment, a restoration that meets you where your exhaustion lives. When confusion gives way to clarity, release follows naturally, like a knot loosening, like a weight setting itself down. This is the beginning of that release. It is subtle but real. And as you rest here, notice how your heart begins to lean toward hope again, not because you're being promised outcomes but because you're being reminded of your worth. This is the moment where the fog begins to thin, where you remember what peace feels like. So linger here with expectation, not pressure. Let this moment become a soft turning point, the kind that doesn't shout but whispers, "You are being guided." In a few breaths, we will step deeper into why this message reached you now, but for this moment, just let the promise settle. Clarity is rising. Confusion is giving way. God's reaching out is an act of love, not demand, and the restoration beginning here will continue unfolding as you move forward. When you're ready, we'll walk into the next understanding, why this message met you in this exact hour and what it means for your unfolding path. Before we go any further, take a breath, dear one, because what brought you here is not a mistake. You've been carrying more than you show, juggling responsibilities, emotions, and quiet disappointments that rarely find language. You've scrolled past so many moments like this simply because you were tired, overstimulated, or unsure whether anything could truly speak to where your heart sits. That kind of fatigue isn't failure, it's a sign of how much you've endured without support. And yet, something in you paused today, suggesting you're closer to presence than you've realized. So let me meet you there, in that honest space where overwhelm meets longing. You're not someone who avoids spiritual nudges because you don't care, you avoid them because you've been stretched thin, trying to stay functional while your soul whispers for rest. You've learned to keep moving even when your inner world feels tired or fragmented. That's why isolation has felt louder lately, even in rooms filled with people. And it's why this moment feels different. Presence is finally reaching you in a way your spirit can receive without pressure, without noise, without expectations that weigh you down. You haven't missed your moment. You've simply been surviving long enough for your heart to soften again. Sometimes clarity doesn't arrive when we demand it, but when we're finally willing to hear it. This is one of those moments. The fact that you stopped here, even briefly, reveals readiness, not failure. It means your spirit is shifting from avoidance to awareness, from wandering to listening. You're not late, you're aligned. And heaven knows how much strength it took for you to show up emotionally, even if all you did was pause your scrolling. That pause was a doorway, and you walked through it. Before we continue, I want to offer you a simple, grounded practice to bring your body into the same stillness your spirit is beginning to feel. Gently inhale through your nose for 4 seconds, hold for 2, and release for 4. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your chest soften. Take the full 60 seconds if you can. This isn't a ritual of perfection, just a moment to signal to your nervous system that you are safe enough to receive. Breathe as though clarity is moving toward you with every exhale, and notice how presence rises within you. You don't need to force anything here. You don't need to manufacture belief or pretend you're stronger than you feel. Presence always meets you where you are, not where you think you should be. And right now, presence is gently drawing you out of isolation and into alignment. This is the sacred shift happening beneath the surface. You're moving from feeling unseen to knowing you're witnessed, from feeling scattered to realizing you're held. Nothing about this moment is accidental. You're beginning to hear what once felt unreachable simply because your spirit is less guarded than it was yesterday. Now, as you settle into this quiet awareness, let yourself recognize how extraordinary it is that you're still here, still reaching, still hoping for something real. You could have kept scrolling, but presence touched your shoulder and you turned your head. That tiny turning is the beginning of clarity. It means your heart is no longer numb to divine encouragement, it's awakening again. And as awareness opens, you'll start to understand why this moment chose you, why your spirit finally said enough to isolation and yes to being met with compassion. In the next section, we'll explore what aligned to bring this message specifically to your path today, beloved. There is a quiet struggle you've been feeling, dear one, a tug beneath the surface that you haven't always had language for. It's not a dramatic battle, not a crisis with flashing lights, but a subtle inner conflict that keeps pulling your attention away from the clarity you crave. You've wondered why it's been so hard to stay focused on what matters, why moments of insight slip through your fingers, why you feel delay where your heart longs for release. This section is not here to accuse you, it's here to reveal the patterns that have been shaping your days without your permission. For many, the unseen conflict begins with distraction cycles, those moments when you reach for your phone, your tasks, your worries, or your habits because staying present feels surprisingly vulnerable. Presence asks you to feel. Presence asks you to hope again. And hope, beloved, has let you down before, so your heart learned how to dodge it. That dodge looks like scrolling. It looks like tending to everyone else's needs. It looks like numbing the ache with noise. Not because you're careless, but because your spirit has been trying to protect you from disappointment. And then there is the overgiving, the quiet pattern where you pour out more than you replenish. You've given your time, your emotional energy, your listening ear, your strength, even when no one asked you how your heart was holding up. Overgiving can feel noble, but it also keeps you in delay, because when you're constantly pouring out, there's no space left for release to enter. You can't receive clarity when your hands are already full. You can't hear divine guidance when your mind is crowded with everyone else's noise. And so the delay you felt hasn't been a punishment, it's been a signal that something in your life is imbalanced and longing for recalibration. There's another layer, one that sits deeper, the fear of hope. You may not say it aloud, but your heart remembers every time you believed for something and watched it fall apart. That memory doesn't just fade, it echoes. Sometimes it echoes as caution. Sometimes it echoes as hesitation. And sometimes it echoes as betrayal, not betrayal by God or by yourself, but by past experiences that taught you to brace for disappointment. These betrayals are not attached to any one person, they are internal echoes, the residue of moments when life took turns you didn't see coming. These echoes can create delay without you realizing it. You step forward but only halfway. You pray for clarity but hold back from believing. You sense divine nudges but doubt whether you're worthy of them. That is the unseen conflict, a tug between the part of you that longs for release and the part of you that fears the cost of hope. It's not wrong. It's human. And naming it is the first step toward freedom. But awareness is not enough on its own, you need tools that honor both your spirit and your boundaries. So here is a simple, grounded boundary script you can gently begin using in your daily life. I can't give my energy to this right now. I'm choosing clarity and peace. This sentence is not aggressive. It's not defensive. It's a way of signaling to your mind, your relationships, and your environment that your time matters. Your clarity matters. Your inner release matters. And you are worthy of protecting it. As you begin using that language, even softly, you'll notice something shift. You'll start recognizing the difference between obligations that drain you and opportunities that align with your purpose. The delay that once felt like a fog will begin peeling back, revealing small moments of release, moments when you feel lighter, clearer, more awake to divine presence. And that presence has been waiting, patiently, for the exact moment when you'd be ready to see what's been pulling you away so you can start reclaiming your path. Now that you've named the unseen conflict and begun reclaiming your energy, the next step is learning how the divine has been trying to reach you despite these quiet battles. In the next section, we'll explore the subtle signs and confirmations that have been weaving through your days, calling you toward deeper awareness and gentle alignment. There are moments, beloved, when heaven speaks softly, and yet the message lands with a weight you cannot explain. You've been sensing things lately, small shifts, recurring thoughts, sudden waves of emotion that appear without warning. These aren't coincidences or random flickers of imagination, they are gentle signals that God has been reaching for you long before you paused here. When fear tells you to dismiss them, faith whispers that there is more happening beneath the surface than you realize. Think about the little signs that have followed you. Maybe you've been catching the same numbers on the clock, noticing the same phrase show up in different places, or waking from dreams that feel strangely meaningful even if you can't interpret them. Perhaps a name keeps appearing in conversations or memories, or you feel a sudden pull to reflect just when you were about to distract yourself again. These signs don't demand anything from you. They invite you to listen with a softer heart, a steadier breath, a willingness to consider that God has been closer than your fear wants you to believe. Fear tells you to ignore these confirmations because it worries you'll get your hopes up. Fear says it's safer to assume nothing is happening. But faith invites you to notice, not to overanalyze. Faith says, just pay attention. Just stay open. Just let your spirit lean in without needing all the answers at once. You aren't being asked to leap, only to look. Because clarity often begins with the smallest recognition, the quietest yes, the single moment you choose awareness over dismissal. Some signs feel external, numbers, words, coincidences that defy logic. Others are deeply internal, like the sudden peace you can't explain, the nudge to reach out or pull back, the quiet knowing that rises without warning. Sometimes God speaks through the tightening in your chest that tells you something is off. Other times through the warmth that reassures you everything is aligning. None of these moments exist to pressure you. They exist to guide you, to reassure you, to help you shift from fear to faith one breath at a time. And as you move through the next 24 hours, take this as an opportunity, not an alarm. You're not racing a clock. You're simply entering a period where your awareness is heightened and your spirit is more receptive. Think of it as a window of noticing, a gentle invitation to observe what has been there all along. Something small may stand out, a phrase, a feeling, a sense of recognition that runs deeper than logic. Don't chase it, let it come to you. Signs are not puzzles to solve but conversations to receive. To help anchor this openness, try writing a simple question at the top of a journal page. What repeated signs have been following me lately? Don't force answers. Let your hand move as your heart remembers. You might be surprised by the patterns that emerge, patterns that reveal how consistently heaven has been whispering to you in ways you previously overlooked. As these confirmations gather, they become stepping stones toward deeper clarity. They prepare your heart for understanding the nature of divine presence and protection that surrounds you. And that is where we are headed next, into a fuller awareness of the spiritual framework holding you, especially the protective guidance that has been standing beside you even in the moments you felt most alone. There is a moment in every spiritual journey when the atmosphere around you shifts, not with fear, but with a quiet, unmistakable strength. As you read these words, imagine that strength drawing near, not demanding, not commanding, simply arriving with the steady presence of one who has walked with you longer than you realize. This is the moment Archangel Michael steps into the room of your awareness, not as a dramatic interruption, but as a reminder that you have never faced your battles alone. His presence symbolizes courage, truth, and divine protection, a covering that gently replaces every echo of betrayal that has lingered in your heart. You have known vulnerability, dear one. You have known seasons when the people you trusted could not hold what you offered, when situations broke your confidence instead of lifting it. Those moments leave imprints, subtle, lasting impressions that whisper you're unprotected, unheard, unshielded. But divine justice does not abandon you in those echoes. That is where Michael's energy becomes significant. He is the guardian of truth, the defender of your spirit, the one who helps turn wounds into wisdom without hardening your heart. Where betrayal carved empty spaces, protection begins to fill them. Take a breath and imagine the difference. Betrayal feels like being left exposed in the cold. Protection feels like being wrapped in a cloak of unwavering strength. Betrayal isolates. Protection gathers. Betrayal fractures your confidence. Protection restores it. You don't have to force this shift, you only need to allow the possibility that heaven has been covering you even when life felt harsh. Divine authority does not operate through fear or pressure. It operates through invitation, through alignment, through the gentle truth that you are safer than your past experiences taught you to believe. Michael's presence is never intrusive. He stands beside you, not above you. His role is not to override your will but to fortify it, to strengthen your ability to choose clarity over confusion, courage over fear, release over delay. If you've ever felt a sudden surge of bravery at a moment when you needed it most, that may have been the brush of his guidance. If you've ever felt a clear no rise within you when everything around you tried to sway you, that may have been his shield. If you've ever sensed you were being redirected away from something harmful without knowing why, that may have been his protective hand. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine what protection feels like, not what it looks like, but how it settles in your body. Feel your shoulders uncoil. Feel your breath deepen. Feel the steadiness that comes when you are supported rather than exposed. This is not fantasy, it is a spiritual posture. One that heaven offers freely, without condition. You are not asked to earn it. You are not required to perform for it. You are simply invited to receive it, to recognize that God's justice includes defending your spirit, your boundaries, your tenderness. And this protection is not just for emergencies, it is woven into your daily steps. When you walk into conversations unsure of your footing, Michael is the quiet reinforcement beneath your words. When you navigate decisions clouded by past hurts, he clears the fog with truth. When old betrayals try to convince you that you are alone, his presence counters with a firm, steady reassurance. You are covered. You are seen. You are defended. As you rest in this awareness, notice how your spirit responds. Notice how different life feels when you remember that you do not walk unguarded. This shift in understanding prepares you for the next phase of your journey, the move from delay into release, from scattered energy into alignment, from feeling pulled apart to being pulled together. And that is where we will go next, into the path of reversal that awaits you. There comes a moment, beloved, when the unraveling you've been feeling begins to reverse itself. You may not notice it at first. The shift begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, like the soft tightening of a thread that had long been loosening. You've spent so much time feeling stretched between responsibilities, emotions, expectations, and unanswered longings that fragmentation became familiar. But this is the season when the scattered pieces begin to move toward one another again. This is where the reversal path begins, not with pressure, but with a gentle gathering. You've been taught to chase your peace, chase your clarity, chase your purpose, chase your healing. Chasing is exhausting. It implies that what you need is always running ahead of you, slightly out of reach. But the truth, dear one, is far kinder. You were never meant to chase, you were meant to carry. What is aligned for you is not sprinting away. It is waiting for permission to settle fully into your life, to come home to you. And the shift from chasing to carrying is where restoration takes root. When your energy is pulled in too many directions, you lose the ability to recognize the divine timing unfolding around you. Delay feels personal, even though it isn't. Delay often means your spirit is overloaded, fragmented, or protecting itself from too much too soon. Release, on the other hand, happens when your inner world is spacious enough to hold what you've been praying for. The reversal path is about creating that inner space, slowly, kindly, intentionally, so that what once felt distant can finally draw near. To help anchor this transition, here is a simple 7-day micro-restoration practice. It isn't meant to fix everything. It is meant to reteach your spirit how to receive without chasing, how to allow rather than strive. Day 1, rest your mind for 5 minutes without forcing stillness. Simply breathe and let your thoughts flow without judgment. Day 2, release one small obligation that drains you more than it supports you. Freeing even a little space matters. Day 3, choose one object in your environment to clean or organize, symbolizing internal clarity. Day 4, speak one truth you've been holding inside, even if only into your journal. Day 5, do one act of kindness for yourself without apologizing or minimizing its importance. Day 6, set a boundary in a gentle sentence, allowing someone to meet you where you are rather than where you've been. Day 7, spend 5 minutes imagining what carrying peace feels like, letting your body memorize that sensation. None of these actions are dramatic. They don't shout. They whisper you back to yourself. Each day adds a small stitch to the places that once felt frayed. This is how alignment forms, not in sudden explosions of change, but in steady rhythms that remind your spirit it is safe to open again. As you follow these practices, you may notice the ground beneath you feeling steadier, the fog lifting slightly, the noise quieting. That's the reversal path at work. Breakthrough is not a race. It is a posture. It unfolds at the speed of readiness, not urgency. You cannot force what is meant to be carried gently. The divine does not rush you, it restores you. It waits for your breath to steady, your shoulders to drop, your heart to trust that it is not too late. Healing is not linear, and clarity doesn't always arrive in straight lines. But as you commit to small, intentional acts of restoration, you create room for grace to flow where exhaustion once lived. Feel into this shift, dear heart. You are not being pulled apart anymore. You are being gathered. What once felt scattered across years of disappointment is slowly being drawn back into coherence. You are stepping into a season where what belongs to you will not run from you. It will rest in your hands because you have learned to carry, not chase. And as this new steadiness forms within you, you'll find your voice rising again, ready not only to receive guidance but to speak it. That is where we will go next, into the declarations and rituals that help you anchor this new alignment into your daily experience. There comes a tender moment in every journey when the shift inside you becomes ready to be spoken aloud, not as performance but as personal truth. This is that moment, beloved. You've spent so long absorbing the noise of scarcity of peace, of clarity, of support, that a part of you forgot how powerful your own voice can be. But your voice is a doorway. It opens what has felt closed. It softens what has felt rigid. It invites overflow where emptiness once echoed. And today, you are being offered a simple, optional ritual that can help your spirit remember its strength without pressure or expectation. If you feel comfortable, place your hand gently over your heart. Feel its steady rhythm, the quiet insistence that you are still here, still capable of receiving, still deserving of goodness. This gesture isn't symbolic alone, it helps your body register what your spirit already knows, that you are allowed to welcome what supports you and release what diminishes you. With your hand resting there, breathe in slowly, then let your breath fall without effort. When you're ready, speak this declaration softly, or even silently within yourself. I welcome clarity and protection into my life. Notice how your chest expands with the words, how your breath deepens, how your energy shifts from scarcity to overflow. If another declaration rises naturally, trust it. One you might borrow is this: I am open to what aligns and gently released from what drains. You don't need to force belief, you only need to let the words land. Declarations are not magic spells, they are reminders. They help reorganize the inner atmosphere you've been living in, turning the volume down on fear and turning it up on faith. They reorient your heart from the cramped posture of scarcity into the spaciousness of overflow, where receiving doesn't feel dangerous but natural. This ritual is entirely yours to shape. You can practice it once, or return to it whenever your spirit feels tight or clouded. You can whisper the words at the beginning of your day or hold them quietly in the moment before sleep. What matters is not repetition but intention. The simple act of speaking truth into your own atmosphere shifts the way clarity moves toward you. It signals that you are no longer bracing for the worst but opening to what is rightfully yours. And as these declarations begin to settle into your being, you'll notice subtle changes, soft alignments, gentle insights, small releases. These shifts prepare you for the rhythms of movement that unfold over time. That is where we go next, into the timelines and checkpoints that reveal how your journey may unfold in the days ahead. Every journey of release begins with a quiet unfolding, and yours is no different. The timelines you're stepping into now are not deadlines but invitations, soft checkpoints where you might notice subtle shifts rising in places that once felt still. Movement rarely announces itself with fanfare. Instead, it begins with a feeling, a breath, an unexpected moment of relief. These next days are not about expecting dramatic outcomes but about watching the atmosphere around you and within you gently reorganize. In the next 24 hours, you may sense the first hints of internal release. Perhaps a worry loosens its grip or an idea becomes clearer than it has in weeks. This isn't proof of anything promised. It's a sign that your spirit is responding to the space you've created. Delay begins to weaken here, replaced by a soft readiness you might not fully recognize yet. Simply notice whatever rises without labeling it as success or failure. By day 3, clarity may feel more accessible. You might find yourself making a small decision that once felt heavy or seeing a situation from a calmer perspective. These shifts are often delicate, but they matter. They reveal that your inner world is learning to breathe again. Release grows slowly, like light stretching across a room, touching corners that haven't been illuminated in a long time. By day 7, you may notice renewed energy. Something dormant may begin to stir, a sense of direction, a spark of motivation, a quiet conviction that you can trust your steps again. These aren't promises of external change, they are indicators that your spirit is strengthening. As the delay dissolves, your inner resilience comes forward, making room for guidance to land more clearly. And by day 14, patterns tend to reveal themselves. You might look back and realize that your thoughts have softened, your reactions have steadied, or your intuition has sharpened. Even if nothing dramatic appears on the surface, the internal recalibration is real. Release often arrives not as a single moment but as a collection of small confirmations pointing in the same direction. To support this awareness, consider keeping a gentle evidence log for the next 14 days. Each evening, write down one thing, just one, that felt like movement, alignment, or peace. You aren't measuring progress, you're noticing presence. This practice invites curiosity rather than pressure and helps you honor the subtle transformations unfolding in your journey. And as these days weave together, the path ahead becomes clearer, preparing you to step into the discernment and boundaries that will protect this new clarity. In this awareness, you start to see how each subtle shift strengthens your ability to move forward with steadiness, trust, and a divine companionship nearby. There comes a point in every spiritual awakening, dear one, when doubt rises like a familiar shadow, whispering old questions into newly opened spaces. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm misreading the signs? What if I'm being misled? These questions aren't flaws in your faith, they're signs of your sincerity. They appear because you're stepping out of confusion and into clarity, and the old patterns of fear want to pull you back into what feels known. But clarity doesn't shout over fear, it outlasts it, gently and steadily, like light filling a room that has forgotten morning. Doubt often emerges when your spirit begins to shift from survival into sensitivity. You've spent years learning to navigate uncertainty alone. Now that guidance is drawing near, it's natural to question your perception. Fear thrives in noise and haste, convincing you that a single misstep will undo everything. But faith moves differently. Faith is patient. Faith is spacious. Faith gives you room to breathe, to pause, to consider. Discernment is not about forcing certainty, it's about learning to trust the subtle difference between pressure and peace. When you are unsure, practice peace testing. Ask yourself, does this direction create panic or grounding? Does it shrink me or strengthen me? Divine guidance never demands that you rush, react, or make decisions under emotional strain. Genuine spiritual nudges bring a sense of alignment even when they challenge you. They create a clarity that feels like exhaling, not bracing. If something feels frantic, distorted, or heavy, it is not your path. If something invites softness, honesty, and thoughtful steps, it's worth leaning into. Confusion often tells you that everything is urgent. Clarity reminds you that almost nothing truly is. Fear tries to pull you back by convincing you that any movement forward is dangerous. Faith steadies you, saying, move slowly if you must, but don't retreat into old shadows. You don't need perfect certainty to proceed, you only need enough light for the next step. You've already shown courage by pausing, by listening, by noticing what stirs inside you. That is discernment in motion. To support your journey, it helps to weave practical boundaries into your week, anchors that keep your spirit steady when emotional tides shift. Here is a gentle weekly boundary checklist you can return to. Have I protected at least one pocket of quiet for myself this week? Have I said no to one request that would have drained me unnecessarily? Have I paused before making decisions, allowing clarity to catch up with emotion? Have I limited my exposure to conversations or environments that confuse my spirit? Have I given myself permission not to resolve everything immediately? These boundaries aren't walls, they are invitations. They create space for truth to rise without being drowned out by noise. They teach your heart to trust itself again, reminding you that discernment strengthens with practice, not perfection. And when objections arise, because they will, meet them with compassion. You are not unfaithful for asking questions. You are not misguided for wanting to be wise. You are learning the language of your own intuition, your own spirit, your own connection with the divine. Every time you choose clarity over confusion, faith over fear, you take another step toward the life you've been preparing for. Let yourself breathe here. Let yourself trust that you are not being rushed, tricked, or pushed. Guidance that comes from love always leaves room for stillness. Always. As these boundaries settle into your life and your discernment grows steadier, you prepare the ground for what comes next, the moment of release, the gentle closing of the journey we've walked together, and the invitation to step fully into the restoration awaiting you. There is a moment, beloved, when the journey you've walked, step by step, breath by breath, begins to settle into your spirit like a warm light rising from within. You've moved through confusion, through doubt, through fragmentation, and now you stand at the edge of something softer, something clearer, something that feels like release. Not the dramatic kind the world chases, but the quiet kind that meets you in the deepest part of your being. This is the release you've been waiting to feel, the one that doesn't demand anything from you except your willingness to stay open, just a little longer. For so long, isolation has tried to convince you that you were navigating your journey alone. It whispered that no one could understand the weight you carried, the questions you held, the silent prayers you whispered in the dark. But presence, with God, with the divine, with the protective guidance that has followed you through every season, has been here all along. Today, that presence becomes easier to recognize. Today, the distance between you and the support surrounding you grows smaller, until you can feel the shift inside your own breath. You are not alone, and you never have been. You've also lived under the shadow of scarcity, not just financial or material scarcity, but emotional scarcity, spiritual scarcity, relational scarcity. Times when you felt like there wasn't enough clarity, enough reassurance, enough love to sustain you. But look at what has unfolded as you opened your heart through each section. The atmosphere within you has changed. A new fullness is rising. Overflow is becoming your new language. Not because everything outside you has transformed, but because everything inside you is aligning with truth. Clarity has space now. Protection has room to settle. Hope has a home again. If you pause here and breathe, you may notice the sense of something lifting. The heaviness you began with is no longer weighing on your chest in the same way. The fog that once clouded your thoughts has thinned. Even if your circumstances haven't shifted yet, your awareness has. And awareness is often the first sign of breakthrough. This is the kind of release that doesn't rush you, it restores you. It gathers the fractured pieces of your spirit and gently weaves them into coherence. Let yourself imagine the path ahead, not with fear, but with the quiet certainty that comes from being held. You can walk into your next steps knowing that protection surrounds you, clarity guides you, and divine presence meets you in every space you enter. You are not walking into the unknown unprepared. You are walking with insight, intuition, and spiritual authority you didn't have when you began reading. You are stepping forward carrying peace, not chasing it. Take a moment now to feel gratitude settle into your heart, not because everything is perfect, but because you can finally feel the shift. Gratitude that you paused long enough to hear what your spirit needed. Gratitude that you allowed yourself to be softened instead of hardened. Gratitude that you chose presence over isolation, overflow over scarcity, trust over fear. These choices are the foundation of your next chapter, the soil where new blessings can take root in their own timing. And as this journey comes to a close, I want to speak directly to the strength that brought you here. You showed up when it would have been easier to keep scrolling. You listened when your doubts tried to silence you. You opened when past wounds told you to stay guarded. That is courage. That is spiritual maturity. That is the reason release is finding you now. Before you step forward, I offer one final invitation, not a demand, not a requirement, simply a gentle act of grounding. If you feel it, speak this aloud or in your heart. I choose clarity and divine protection. These words are not a spell, they are an alignment. They remind your spirit of the truth you've touched throughout this journey. They seal the atmosphere you've been cultivating. And if you want to anchor this moment even more deeply, you can write that same declaration in the comments. I choose clarity and divine protection. Let it be your marker, your witness, your way of saying yes to the path opening before you. Not because you're pressured, but because you're ready. As you move forward from here, know this: you are carried, you are guided, you are protected, and you are capable of receiving every gentle blessing that is aligning with your life. The release you've been waiting to feel is already unfolding within you, and the journey ahead is ready to meet you with grace.